Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness in the highest levels of love light. I've got my clouds behind me, above me, around me. I'm just having fun with the Zoom background. My husband says my head is always in the clouds. I wouldn't disagree. I wanted to just share that I I want to reiterate again and again how important it is for us to be in the heart. I want to say from my heart to yours, thank you for watching these videos, for sharing these videos, for interacting in this way with the energy that I'm expressing and sharing with you. And I'm very grateful for all of us who are experiencing life in this earthly realm and beyond together, because we really are embarking upon something that, from my perspective, hasn't been done before in this way. So there's challenges and feelings of isolation and feelings like nobody gets us and feeling like we're alone. And then other times we feel like so many people are relying on us, right? Friends, family members. Maybe you have children, parents that you're taking care of, right? Many of us feel that. Some of us feel as if we are going through old cycles that are difficult to go through, new cycles that are difficult to go through, everything here now all at once. And I just want to reiterate that this is not for wimps. This journey isn't always sunshine and rainbows yet. Underlying all of this frequency, energy, purging, integration, evolution, heightened senses, while the old kind of dissipates around us in a very noisy and uncomfortable fashion. It is uncomfortable for a lot of people because we're all in the same soup from one perspective. We're all living on Earth. Yet from that one perspective, all is well. But from our individual perspectives that we have in this experience, it's different for everyone. And the more we can be compassionate, get into our hearts, come into a place of recognition and acknowledgement that each person has their own stuff going on, gives us the opportunity to create space for each other, to allow for the unfolding of our reality, if we want to call it that, our own individual experience in such a way that we can support this new dimensional shift. So I guess just taking a moment and recognizing that we really are working through a lot, and that's okay. I think it's just so important. So I'm going to invite everybody just to take a deep breath in, come into the heart, feel gratitude for our bodies. And again, I hopefully will do a series of ascension videos and empath videos. Just have to find the time to create them. So I'll just try to do little bursts here and there as often as I can. So let's talk about that briefly, the energies. You know, I'll say this over and over again, the energies are not going to, from my perspective, lighten up. What does lighten up is our own vibrational frequency that adjusts accordingly. What lightens up is our perspective on what's happening to us. And rather than thinking of it happening to us, we begin to recognize that it's happening for us, through us, as us, and we are co-creating this experience together. It's not always something that we feel comfortable with. And so these heightened energetic influxes can stimulate, overstimulate, can create emotion. We can feel emotional swings. We can feel as if our world is kind of falling apart. What we thought it was is no longer, and that can bring up fear. We can feel like we're losing our identities, so we latch on and try to identify with something even stronger. We can see other people doing this. And so the more we can become the compassionate observer, the easier it becomes to hold these incoming frequencies in a more balanced way. So it's not to say that the frequencies are going to diminish or become less. It's to say that potentially our reaction, response, and integration and processing with them shifts. And therefore, it can at times become easier. So that was one of the updates I wanted to share. I'm just going to go into a little flow from here. And just kind of drop in and tune in and see what my guides have to share with that's relevant for the collective experience. So I'm seeing a lot of threads that I could tune into. Do I tune into the quantum realm and what's happening in those changes? Do I tune into what's happening in the body, which is also connected to the quantum? Do I tune into the earth changes? And this is relevant for the message. I can kind of see this. Should I focus on what's happening in the galactic realms? Should I focus on potentially what's happening in our social and political economic forum? What about the chakra system? What about, I have so many questions, right? And that's kind of the message, everything here now all at once. So one of the messages I'm seeing is that allowing ourselves to drop in to our heart center gives us the ability to see everything around us. But again, from that compassionate observer. I was going to draw a picture. Let's say we have all these bubbles of energy that are just kind of floating around us. We can see all the bubbles, but we find our center, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we're tuning into all of the bubbles. We can differentiate or pick and choose which ones we can focus our attention and energy on. But simultaneously, we can also be aware of them all at once and just not get pulled into that big whirlwind of energy that I'm seeing, like a tornado. I'll have to draw a picture of it. Okay, here we go. I'm being called to. I don't really have enough room on my whiteboard, but the clouds are making it disappear, my ring light, so it's pretty dark in here. Maybe I can turn off the ring light. Let's just say that you're a person standing in a tornado, and the tornado is all around, and picture a coil, and attached to the tornado coil are all these nodes, bubbles of information, timelines, access points, and you can see them all spinning around you. But you realize that there is no time. So once you kind of drop into that space, it's less hectic, it's less chaotic. It's like you can freeze frame how you feel to organize your thoughts, emotions, and then reaction, rather than seeing this massive tornado and not being able to separate the lines that hold that tornado together. The strata, right? I'm thinking of the clouds. I had a vision years ago when I was in meditation of me being inside of this tornado, and it looked like cotton candy. And then there was like all this stuff stuck in the tornado, like a cow was in there and a house was in there, and in my meditation vision. And I just paused it, and I saw it just kind of floating in this cotton candy cloud. And what I did in this vision was I climbed up this inside of this funnel cloud. It was all pink and gray. When I got to the top, I could look and see I was above the clouds, which was a thick layer of cotton candy. I know. The things I vision, clouds, cotton candy, bubbles, rainbows. Anyways, and when I stood above that layer, let's call it that strata, and I looked down, I could see the tornado I just climbed out of, but I looked from left to right and all around it was infinite tornadoes. And they were all attached to realities, timelines, dimensions. And I thought, I have access to all of these. The higher you go, the more you can see all of these funnels and where they lead to, or you can have a better idea of where they lead to. And in that moment, I just recognized, well, for me, that cotton candy also represented fascia in the body and the chakra system. But fascia to me represents the mycelium network that holds, let's say, our earth together, the forest floor. It's the conductor of information underneath the ground. It's the underground wiring or network that isn't a living organism that literally is electric and sends information from one part of the field to another. And so all of us are communicating in this electrical mycelium way, but sometimes we get so caught up in these distortions in the field that it's difficult for us to separate ourselves from those distortions. We hear about being one and going back into oneness, but that doesn't mean we get lost in the creation that we have focused so much time, energy, and attention on that it's created these distortions in the fields. We are in the process of clearing those out and integrating them and dissolving them. So they're coming up in cycles right now for us to see them for what they were, to see them as they are from our perspective now, and to make the decisions and choices of what we wish to do with them. Do we still wish to build that tornado? Do we still wish to add to that timeline? Do we wish to repeat this particular cycle, right? It's a cycle, it's a circle, it's a spin. And when we are able to observe that, we respond from our hearts. And when we do that, we are able to then activate deeper chambers inside the heart, activate different potentials in the body, and we are able to then access a different level of understanding and awareness about our environment, about these cycles, about ourselves, about time. And as we shift our interaction with it, it becomes easier to dissolve cycles and patterns that maybe before we didn't realize we were getting pulled into because we weren't aware, we didn't acknowledge, we weren't in our hearts, we were stuck in our left analytical part of our brain. So we're merging and utilizing our ability to stabilize our frequency as frequently as possible. This creates coherence. This creates a frequency that allows us to make all of the adjustments and shift our course quickly and in no time. And it brings us back to 0 point. It brings us back to neutrality more frequently. Doesn't mean that we're always going to be there. I'm certainly not. I have reactions and responses, and I get angry and frustrated just like anybody else does. The difference is I don't necessarily allow those to pull me into a dark place for as long as I might have in the past. There are certain triggers that came up for me this week that were attached to an old part of the tornado, an old cycle that brought up or stirred up some of those old feelings associated with that particular cycle, associated with that particular memory, associated with that particular timeline and wave packet of information. But because I'm oscillating in a frequency that's different than I was when I went through this cycle the first time, I was able to recognize those patterns. I felt them coming up. I remembered the fact that they were an old pattern. I recognized a little bit more about why they triggered me and why I was feeling what I was feeling. I'm being called to also share. We don't necessarily have to know all of that information. I feel strongly that sometimes even over analyzing why, when, who, how, and where can sometimes take us out of the moment and take us out of that hemisync, left and right hemisphere connection, can take us out of the heart and put us back into the logical analyzation that we're doing to compartmentalize the experience. So the biggest part about this being in the heart is feeling these memories, thoughts, frequencies, so that we can then feel more deeply into the oneness of who we really are, and not necessarily just feel the and we can feel the identification with those timelines, with those patterns, and recognize, oh, I'm identifying with this right now when that isn't really who I am. And just that recognition in itself, feeling what we're feeling, is having an experience. We are experiencing that then, that timeline again, but we're experiencing it from a different perspective, from a different angle, from a different spin. And therefore, it doesn't pull us in like it might have 3 years ago. I keep bringing up 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it might be. So everybody has a different way of dealing with it. And so there is no wrong or right way. Those are two different ways. Sometimes we can do both. That we then are allowing ourselves to clear out these cycles and not unconsciously get stuck back in them. Now I'm hearing some questions. Well, what happens if I am stuck in this cycle? I know I'm stuck in this cycle and I can't get out. I know I'm there, but I'm not sure how to get out of it. Well, from that perspective, just having that recognition may be bigger than the first time you went through the cycle and didn't recognize it at all. So stop, just that right there is a different experience. So from my perspective, you're already doing better than you were the first time around, because you are more aware, which means you have an opportunity to make decisions that will be different than when you made those decisions the first time around in unawareness. So it does not to say that you feel like you're able to completely get rid of that cycle, but you're already working it from a different angle. And so in that case, I would suggest, depending on the individual, doing heart math, getting grounded, get back into that space of recognizing I'm in a cycle. Boom, I recognized it, I'm acknowledging it. How does this feel? What can I be feeling right now, or adding to my life, or bringing up within me that will allow me to feel as if I am not being controlled by this person, place, thing, memory, story? And sometimes just asking those questions, which is using our analyzation, right? We're going into the left brain, but then we feel into it with our heart. We ask, how can I get creative here? We merge our right brain as well. What is it that I can create in this now moment that would assist me in transitioning and just kind of stepping away from this tornado? And that puts us back into observer mode. We observe, wow, I'm feeling this way. We observe the experience. We feel the emotions associated with the experience, and that changes the experience. Therefore, you've already changed the cycle to a certain degree. When I say degree, it's geometry, it's an angle, it's a spin. It's different than it was before. So that in itself gives us the opportunity that now something else comes up that's a repetition or repetitive pattern. We recognize it. We know that we're kind of stuck in it. We're feeling that resistance, out of control, not able to control the situation. And that then we're able to, when that person comes up to us and tries to draw us back in, we make a different choice. You know what? I'm in this cycle. I'm feeling this. I'm going to choose not to interact with this person because I may have a similar response that I've had before. It could be a relationship that we keep getting pulled back into, right? It could be a friendship that we feel obligated to stay in. And here we are being offered a situation. Hey, do you want to go do this trip with me? And we feel like, oh, I have to, because that's an old cycle. So it's taking our power back and saying, you know what? Thank you so much. I think I need to just take some time for myself. Be honest about it. Recognize that maybe there's a reason that we're questioning it, whereas before we weren't questioning it. It's the little things. And part of the reason I started Keep It Simple Starseeds was because we forget these little things. We're really focused on the big ahas and the huge miracles and the huge magical moments, and we want a spaceship to come out of the sky. And while that can happen, has and potentially will happen for many of us, that doesn't mean that that's what life is like all the time. It's many different small moments added up that create the bigger magical moments. If we're not recognizing some of these things, we may not even recognize if a spaceship landed in front of us. I've seen things, pointed them out. People around me don't see them at all. So that's just something to be aware of too. Everybody is in their own experience. All right, so hopefully that was helpful for someone. I think I'm going to end on that note and actually do a separate video with just the flow. So that'll be a little bit of the energy update and what I've been recognizing in conversation, in session, and working with other beautiful humans and star seeds. Have a beautiful day. Take a deep breath in. And thank you so much and out. Don't forget to exhale. And thank you so much for watching these videos. In love and light, guys. Namaste.